Hi, everybody, and welcome to the May. I can't believe it's May. I do feel like I say that every time, but to the May 2025 Builder Town Hall. We are so excited to have you here. You have so many demands on your time, and most of us being sales and marketing professionals, although sometimes we do get builder owners and other areas of the company, but being that most of us are in sales and marketing, we are under so much pressure right now. So for you to take time out of what you're doing, and particularly Laura, for you to take time and be our guest today is so amazing. We really appreciate you, and we're all happy that you're here. I'm Meredith Oliver of Meredith Communications. For ah,
Mm.
25 years, Meredith Communications has been delivering digital marketing for home builders, and we love doing it. And we are a small but mighty team. I think we produce great work, and just so much of what we're going to talk about today is literally what I'm doing all day, every day. So it was easy to write this content. I know, Ange, Kerry, and Laura, you're in exactly the
Oh,
same boat. Same for you. So, yeah, today's going to come right out of the field, not quite off the top of our heads, but literally within our grasp of knowledge of what we've been currently dealing with. Well, I'm going to give away 5 books today. So you've probably heard and seen Fantastic Marketing 3.0 is here. And you could let me know whether you'd like a paperback or a Kindle version, but we're going to give away 5 today. And the giveaway is based on meaningful, insightful interaction and chat with the content as we present it. So we're going to pick the 5 folks that contribute the most to the chat and help keep it lively and fun. And then you can email me, Meredith at creatingwow.com, if you're one of our 5, and let me know which version you'd like and a mailing address if it's paperback, and we'll get them out to you. So that's something fun to incentivize you with. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is introduce our guest, Laura Hanson. She is all around amazing, and many of you know her. But in case you don't, I'm going to introduce her and let you know a little bit more about her. She's the marketing director for New Tradition Homes, regional builder based in Vancouver, Washington. She's been with the company almost 20 years, which is incredible in today's world. I didn't even know that, Laura. That's something I learned about you.
yeah.
She has received a Professional Builder 40 Under 40 award, a National Silver Award, a Professional Women in Building Pink Hard Hat Award. Hey, now, where do I get a pink hard hat? Love that. For Woman of Innovation, which I totally believe about you, and is an active member of NAHB, serving as a trustee on the Sales and Marketing Council. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always so happy to be with you ladies.
Yes, this is not your first Builder Town Hall. In fact, I think maybe second or third. And to be honest, you're one of our few repeat appearances. So that's
Well, that is an honor.
congratulations and
I will,
welcome to you.
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So when we were doing the shop talk together the other day, oh, shop talk is a virtual networking and open conversation that the National Sales and Marketing Council holds a couple of times a year. And we were doing that together the other day. And she mentioned foolishly in front of me that she was going to the Builder 100 conference. And I was like, oh, a lot of us don't get to go to that conference. I would love to know more about that conference. So I wrangled her into giving us a recap. So those of us who did not get to attend can learn a little bit about the event and about what some of your ahas, takeaways, impressions were. So tell me, what is the Builder 100 conference? Give us some context. Um, who attends? What kind of information do they present there? What were some of the topics they talked about this year?
Yeah. So it's called the Builder 100 Leadership Summit, and it's every year, usually in about May. And it is put on by both Zonda Home and Builder Magazine. So Zonda Home, if you don't know, they're one of the leading, they're a data and tech company, and they specialize in the residential construction market, and they provide a lot of advisory services to builders, a lot of data, a lot of economic research in our industry, to a lot of stakeholders in the building world. And then of course, Builder Magazine is one of the top publications in our industry, and they just released this year, every year, the Builder 100 list. So it's the top 100 builders by volume in the country, and then there's the next 100 list, for the following 100 on that list. And so it's kind of it's a leadership conference, and the folks there are it's such a cool. I've had the privilege of going for quite a few years, and it's a really high level, a lot of high execs and CEOs of the folks on that Builder 100 list. And so the content is really fascinating and high level, especially, there's a lot of the publics, the Lennars and the Hortons and the K-Hobbs and of the world presenting it's 3 days of all sorts of information on many topics. Of course, it's Zonda being in charge there. Then they've got a lot of the economic data and things that they're looking at there, but then just panels of feedback on all sorts of subjects, some sales and marketing, a lot of finance, mergers, stuff that maybe a lot of us don't get to be privy to, but it is a fascinating kind of look into the industry from a perspective that you don't usually get to see from what some of these folks that are doing, the biggest volume in the country, some of the movers and shakers, and like what their perspectives are on the market right now. So it was, I just, it's only been a few days since it's over. And like when you come home from the builder show and your brain is just like, you have your notes and your brain's just like in overwhelm, like that's where I am now. So I'm trying to put some notes together on some things that I might think that, from a sales and marketing perspective, some takeaways, but I have a lot more thoughts going on that I have to get on paper still.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the fact that the key word was fascinating, because I really do think, that coming away from something and realizing that they're always new and different and energizing and fascinating. So thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
So you're going to start, Anne?
And
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
was just going
Ange,
to say,
go
what
ahead.
was sort of the overall vibe at the event, and kind of how did
I like that vibe check.
Okay, vibe.
Yeah, it was a really interesting time to be there, I think, just because given what's, going on in the market and kind of what we've been seeing and hearing. I think that it varied depending on who was kind of talking and what market they were coming from. But, a lot of the economic data and some of the sentiment from, a lot of the CEOs, the feeling that I got was people are optimistic and doing well, but it's a bumpy year, and a lot of, and I think we're all kind of feeling that in different ways right now. And it felt kind of reassuring to know that they're feeling it, if we're feeling it, from a higher level. But, some of the bigger folks were reporting sales down a bit, maybe 8 to 10%, and just having to, make some strategic moves and working hard. I think, so it was really cool to see kind of some of the sentiment coming from some of the other folks that are making some really big moves versus some of, smaller ones, and what moves we're making, because it's different a little bit. But there's a lot of, threads in between, and kind of the what's going on with tariff, a lot of talk on tariffs, a lot of talk on pricing, a lot of talk on rate, all the things. So yeah. Uncertainty, I think, was like the word I wrote down the most. Uncertainty. So for builders and for buyers. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting and you can help us with is there's a part of does misery love company, and everybody wants to hear everything's down together so that you don't feel like you're alone. So move that over to realize, okay, that is what it is. Was there any aha or anything that you could suggest that you heard that said, yes, we're all in the same boat rowing together. However, consider what?
Yeah. I think I was so excited to see, Meredith, what you wanted to talk about today, because it was exactly kind of what I took away of it was really cool. Dreamfinders Homes was their builder of the year this year, and they had a panel of their CEO and their group, and I just found that to be so inspiring. Some of the things that I took away from what they said, and one of them was persistence. Because how do you, if you're looking at someone who's become builder of the year in a year that was kind of challenging, like you want to look and see, like, what are they doing to, sit there and do that, and so persistence was a word that they used, and it was to keep grinding. And I thought, yeah, I love that we're going to talk about, this today, because it's not the time to let off the gas. It's to be just persistency is sometimes the, most underrated. Just keep going, don't stop. I loved that. And,
Yeah.
one more thing they said too, that I love, that seems silly because we say it a lot, but don't make the same mistake twice. And I thought, gosh, like I just am sitting there going, especially for some of us who've maybe been through a tougher market, or if you have or you haven't, you can always learn from your mistakes. But what did we try back then that maybe didn't work? Or what could we try new? And what can we learn from them? Not to be concerned about or worried about making a mistake, but then not to, what did you learn from it? How do you take that going forward? And that was like one thing I wrote down that was just that I feel like I want to come back and kind of meddle that one around.
Well, you grow from your mistakes too, right? That's
Good
Right.
point.
Right.
I'm finding that there's such little tolerance from leadership for making a mistake at the moment. When I say we're all under a lot of pressure, I feel like part of that pressure is this pressure to, like, every single ad has to be perfect, e- all of it. And what happens when you lead from that perspective is you kill creativity, you kill innovation, and you make people afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So I would really encourage everyone to, yes, we're all under a lot of pressure, and we can't have anything glaring that causes us to not get sales. But at the same time, when we're working at this pace, when you're working this fast, Angel's nodding her head.
Oh,
we're in
I
the
mean,
same
yeah,
business.
it's you got to slow down a little, and that's there is a we want to be consistent and we want to go at a good pace, but the moment you start to make decisions that are maybe a little out of out of scope a little bit, or maybe not part of the original strategy, that's when you start to make mistakes. And mistakes when you're calling your vendors, your website companies, right, Meredith?
Yes.
And there's a push. You've got to kind of you've got to slow down a little bit and just, because when you do things too quickly, that does open up room for.
Yeah.
It's funny when you say that, and I bet you heard this, Laura, is sometimes the best thing that you can do in any given moment is take a deep breath, because I believe that what you abandon too quickly and what you jump in too quickly in the middle is where you sink. And then you're like this. So that breath sometimes goes, someone says something, right? And you go, that's a great idea. Okay, so someone's already sending off an email to someone to say to do this. Whoa, hold the phone.
Yes.
Let's not abandon and select something different. Let's evaluate first, right, Laura? And I
Because
bet you got that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's always that, best practices thing where you're not the knee jerk. And I thought it was really interesting when another thing that when they're talking about, rates, no one will say where they're going to go, and kind of the environment we're in, we know maybe we're looking at 6 to 7% rates. And incentives and what roles those are playing and buy downs. And they were just talking a lot about buyer sentiment and saying, talking about buyers and what they've been through for the last year. They've just been beat down for the last year. And like a lot of that uncertainty that they're feeling, like, some of this knee-jerk stuff, like I think we have to take a step back and say, what is the buyer going through right now? How do we connect with them? How do we use our sales and marketing to our advantage at that time? And they're talking, about incentives and rate buy downs are here to stay, but that they're a little less effective than they were because people are kind of expecting them. So if you're leading with, well, here's my rate and here's my incentive and here's what we have, other than getting in their shoes, slowing down the train a little bit, and like these buyers maybe don't have to move, or they feel uncertain, or the motivation is not there like it was. And so it was kind of just like reconnect with people, best practices, hold the phone, like, don't start, I think we get nervous when other people are nervous. And so we start throwing things out of a fire hose, hoping, well, here's another incentive, or what can we band-aid and fix? And a lot of it is slow down, reconnect with buyers, what's best practices with our leads, messaging, marketing, all of it. And I felt like that.
So that was just an aha from me, from you, from that conference, in this, that not only not leading with incentives from sales team perspectives, but is that what people are looking for most right now? Is it even an incentive that they're looking for? And that is all over the board. And
we'll hold pin on that, because we're gonna dive right on into that in just one second. A couple things I thought about, Laura, is when you said certainty and uncertainty. That is something we talked a lot about, or I did at least, in the shop talk the other day. And I busted out, that's not proper. Okay, my psychology undergraduate degree, and talked a lot about the psychology behind buyer and buyer decisions. So I think for the first time that shop talk was recorded. I'm not sure yet how that will be distributed or disseminated, but if you go on Facebook and join the National Sales and Marketing Council Facebook group, Angela's going to put the link in chat when she has a moment. Then if you're a member, obviously, and I think most of you would be, but join the group, because I'm sure when the recording is available, the link will get posted there, or we can get you tuned in on how to get to the link if you're part of the group. So certainty is a huge issue. So that's one thing I thought about. And when you talked about the grind, one of my dad's favorite talks that he would deliver, like probably my all-time favorite talk of his, was titled "The Glory of the Daily Grind." And he talked a lot about finding moments that you can win in a day to help get you through the daily grind, and we can pivot and talk more about that maybe in the C block if we have time today, as we wrap up. But it was always very useful to me to think about, what are the things that I need personally and professionally to thrive in a grind every day. And those are things that you can use in all your relationships and your work, and can be pretty useful. If you came in after we started, I'm not seeing a lot in chat, and we are incentivizing you today. So I'm doing five book giveaways today for the most insightful and frequent chat participant. So get in there and light that up. And if you didn't introduce yourself, please do so. Okay, so I am going to share a 5-part formula today that we are using with our clients. And I'm sure Angela's using parts and different parts, and she's going to chime in on their clients at O'Neill Interactive, and Kerry and her coaching business. And I think Laura too, in your work as an in-house marketer, right? So it's kind of cool because we have in-house and outside marketers on the panel today. So that's cool. That's a different perspective. I like that. So I'm going to do these 5 parts. Now, I do want to make an exception when we talk about lead generation being slower. I will carve out an exception for the luxury market. If you happen to be selling homes at $1 million plus to a more wealthy buyer who is all cash, uh, most of our clients at least are still thriving in that area. They're hitting numbers, they're doing quite well, they're doing fine. And maybe in your market you are also, but you can always learn. That's why you're here. And you can always do just a little bit better, right? Tune that golf swing up. Tiger Woods hired a golf swing coach the same year that he won 4 titles across, swept.
Yeah.
And he still hired a swing coach that same year. That's crazy. You would think, like, why would you touch that? So if you're doing great, we're so happy for you. It's not the experience most of our people are having, but either way, we hope to help. Okay, so first one is, and I'm going to say this kind of, it's going to come out how it comes out, and then we'll clean it up as far as tightening it up. But I want you to remember that sales are made at the house level. Sales are made at the house level. And I've got house in quotes in my notes. So what I'm saying is, yes, if you're 55 plus active adult, you are selling lifestyle. Totally get it. If you're a developer of a master planned community, and we work with many of those, you're selling lifestyle. I get it. But the rest of you are selling at the house level. The lifestyle is a component, but it's not going to be the driver in terms of how and what you need to do with your marketing as it relates to marketing that are made at the house level. Okay. So I want you to evaluate every location you're building in differently, because you may have one neighborhood that's perfectly fine or meeting numbers and it's going well, but you may have another one that is so slow, and maybe it's not the hottest area in town as you know it, for whatever the factors are. You want to evaluate it differently. So for all the rest of today's tips, first of all, get to the location / community and analyze each one individually as to how or if it needs help.
For sure.
Then secondly, especially as this relates to digital marketing, and that is, the bulk of what we do, so that's a perspective I'm coming from, is on your websites, getting down to that house, one quick move-in home at a time is how you're going to make sales. Every single listing, so that I don't have to keep saying quick move-in, that's 3 words instead of 1, but every single listing has to also be evaluated independently and then determine, how are we going to sell this home, this pin drop emoji, how are we going to sell this one at a time? Now, I know all of our panelists are really awesome at this and good at this, but I don't know anybody that's better at selling homes with a birthday, or we call aged inventory, than Kerry Mulcrone. So Kerry, I'm going to ask you to chime in first, because this is, so when I say it's sold at the house level and evaluate each location, what comes to your mind?
I can't believe you just said that, because I do remember back in the day where I was hired specifically
Yes.
to sell birthday homes. Every home had been
I
on the
know.
market a year back then. Every home, and there were 14 of them that had been there a year. Crazy, right? So to not get a birthday or a half birthday, to piggyback on what you said on the individuality, is I really believe that you want to give all your listings, all your designer homes, all your inventory homes, whatever you do, a persona. And by breaking it down
Hmm.
and finding a persona about it, and Laura knows this because we talk about this all the time when we work together, is that every home has kind of an intended purchaser based on the design of it, the location of it, because the builder planned that out with that person in mind. So with that person in mind, go back and give them all a persona, and then that's your belief system, and then that's your aura, and then that's what connects you quicker to the buyer, that we really think that this is probably who this home is intended to. I'm not saying you're making an assumption and someone different won't buy it. Don't get me wrong. Generally speaking, if you do that as an individual or as a team, as a listing agent, and you do that, that home now has an intended purchaser and a persona for it, and you'll sell it. We did it. It works.
It helps
That's
the
awesome.
sales team, right? By doing, I mean, your sales team then hasn't really can
Yes.
then put two and two together and go, hey, I've got the perfect home for this spot.
And you start looking at your database with that in mind, because now you, as a salesperson, and we want people in their CRM all the time right now, they all of a sudden have this sense and this feeling, and they're like, oh, these are the guys for this house. I'm going to call them and tell them. And they feel just like I just talked about, you've got to come out because I have your home, kind of.
Oh, so a persona. So you gave it a name, like the Shirley
We did.
or the
We did
the John
everything.
or the whatever. And
And
then, okay, tell me
Was there
more.
a Kerry?
there was, yeah, don't I wish? No, because if it didn't sell, I'd feel so bad. It was really a personality is what, and when
Okay.
and also when we gave it its personality, we went so deep that we realized if this is the personality of this home, then this front door paint color doesn't work. Ditch it, change it. The personality of this person says that when they drive up, they might want to see this. So it also gave us a little work to do on the individual homes to match the personality of the home, so that by, drive up, which that's a big part of things. Yes, people are on the listing, but you don't think they don't drive by and drive up on their own. So we had to give the personality from the streetscape to the back door.
Oh, I love that.
Well, we
Laura,
had 14 to
how
sell,
have
but it'd
you,
been there a year.
yeah. And I mean, for most of our clients, inventory is an issue. Although, let me say this, that on the website side, looking at Google Analytics it's generally the number one or the second most visited page still in this current market.
Yeah.
It, depending on how you have your website organized, we typically organize with one page that has all the inventory in addition to listing inventory within each community.
Yeah. Yes.
We like
Yeah.
we like doing that because it's so great for realtors to see all of your information on one place. It's kind of
Yeah.
the old-fashioned inventory hot sheet, that we all, you might still be creating, I don't know, but there was a day when we created a PDF of all of
Yeah.
the inventory listings and we
Yes.
sent that. Honestly, I think an updated version of that still works, but
Yep.
you can also have it on the site,
Right.
organize it by location, put the filters on there so your users can quickly eliminate and only hone in
Right.
on what they want. But by having it consolidated on one page, then you can track the visit level. So when I say it's the
See,
first or
that's
second page,
it.
you can
That
see
nails
that.
it. Yes.
Yeah, I can see on all the reports that is still most visited. Whereas
Yes.
the pre-sale pages that have floor plans have really dropped. I mean, if I could say where I've seen the biggest drop
Ooh,
in terms of what people are looking at on websites, builder websites, it's floor plans to be built or
Right.
pre-sales.
I said to
So-
somebody the other day, Mayor, and you're so right
Mm.
about that page, is that you know how these analogies just fall out of my mouth that sometimes afterwards
Yeah.
I have to go, did I say it?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
like when you look at your bread at home and you see that it's like stale, you throw out 4, 5, or 6 slices of bread to put fresh bread out, right? Like that, those last 4 slices never get eaten usually. And you go to fresh. If it's stale, which is what that is,
Yeah.
then get it fresh,
Mhm.
really.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
your point, because that's what they're looking for. That's the page.
Well,
Yeah.
and I love Beth asked in chat, about any other ways that you develop or express the persona, like if you give it a description or your digital staging, and that just got my brain going. How are we going to tell the home story online, and what plot that right into your old chat GPT. Write this description for a buyer with kids that's coming from out of town, if you know who that, but use this tone, and then stage it for what a buyer, whether you can really
Right.
stage it or virtual stage or whatever, stage it for something that would appeal to a young family if that's who you're going after. Or how can you, really, bring that full circle with its, persona in your marketing and make sure you're hitting, because I know a lot of us are building different, a lot of different product lines for different demographics and different buyers, and they're all looking, for probably a different persona. So I love, now my mind's going,
Yeah.
okay, we go
Well,
back
when
and look
you
through these through their lens of who that buyer.
through their lens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when you give it a personality, a persona, now you're doing everything through their lens. You're decorating
Mhm.
it, you're staging, you're selling it, you're listing it, you're doing everything Meredith says about, all the different pages. And you know what? Chat GPT right now, people, it is your friend. Just go in there and write. We have this space that where we think that we're going to see kids hang out. What should we put in that? And then they just send you like, this is what you should put in it. And so, yes, to everybody, I think I love how that went full circle from sales, marketing, websites to the sales team. Just really quickly, and then we're going to get to your next point, Meredith, is Laura and I just did this with her team the other day, is talking about mindset and going the second mile, like the second mile. That's what this is all about today, that you've helped us, Meredith, with bringing us together. Is we get paid for the first mile. That's our job description. The second mile is where the magic happens. And the second mile is doing this to your listings.
Mm. I love it. Ange, did you have anything on this you wanted to?
From back to a website perspective, having those listings, making it easy, like cut through that clutter of making it easy to find those listings. I'm seeing a lot. I know we have a tendency to want to push a lot of information to our visitors to the website, whether it's pop-ups, whether it's, the incentives, whether it's buy downs, whether it's interest rate, whatever that is. But you kind of, again, to Laura's point, put your buyer's lens on and what they're looking for a home. The incentive and the other, that will come later. But let them find your home and showcase the beauty and the photography and showcase all those wonderful things that you offer. And then gently be that, you can be there to say, register or learn more, whatever that is. Then there's a time and place for the incentives and for all of the other. Think of that really great retail experience. That's what I always think of. And I know, Kerry, you've used this analogy of when you walk into a store and you're bombarded with people who want to help you, right? And you're just browsing and you're kind of just like, let it go, But think about that retail experience when you walk into the store and they just sort of magically are there when you need them. That's
Yes.
what you want. It's at Nordstrom. Maybe, I don't know if Nordstrom is still like that or not, but it's the Nordstrom experience where they just kind of magically know when you're ready to go try something
Yes.
on, or when you're
You know-
ready with a question. That's what we have to get to, is just be there in the back, be there and we're ready when they want to pull that trigger.
And so what I think about is in retail, when they immediately ask you, how can I help you? Instead of just, hello, welcome, my name is, because I don't know how you can help me yet. I need to browse. Now, there is that occasion when you've spotted it, something perfectly online, and you do know, I'm here for the black dress. Is it in size X, right? But most of the time, I mean, if I've taken the trouble to go to a retail store, I still want to browse around. So asking me immediately, how can I help you? So the equivalent in the digital world is that pop-up happening immediately upon loading of the homepage. That drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I don't know. And we'll talk about incentives here in just a second. And so when I told Kerry that earlier, we are getting to that, but there is no incentive that is going to make me buy a house in a location I don't want to live in, or I can't live in, or what, but we still are driven by location for most people. Again, this isn't true for everyone, but we are going to be driven by that. And so letting them browse before we bombard is really important. Okay, number 2, competitive pricing. So I'm trying to get away from the word discount. So I've started using this word competitively. Price, I do believe you do have to be competitively priced. Unless, again, we're in the luxury area or it's a different kind of sale. But if we're talking single family, first time, for sure. Second time move up, still, yes, pretty strongly. Maybe in custom, it doesn't apply as much, but competitively priced. So if you haven't done that yet, and you have the ability to do so, please take a look and sharpen up that pencil and that spreadsheet and get as competitively priced, take the hit, and then be done with the 10,000 off, 20,000 off discounting. Because personally, I'm not a fan. I don't want to devalue your homes for a deep discount. I do want to incentivize with purchase, which we'll talk about, and I think might be the next point. But yeah, competitively priced. What are you all's thoughts? Ange, you want to kick us off this round?
Oh, sure. I mean, from a competitive, buying a home is unique, right? There is nothing else like it. And if you are not, our buyers are knowledgeable. They know what the going rates are. They know, and if you aren't competitively priced, you need to be prepared to sit for a while. I mean, that's just the, but what I'm also finding is that I'm not sure that we're selling all the features of our home. We're selling the value of the home. And I think that's where there's sometimes a real learning moment, education moment for the buyers to understand why something is priced the way it is.
Yeah.
What can we do to help the buyers understand the difference, and what are those competitive differences between, the home here versus the home there? And,
I love that.
I feel like that's marketers, there's opportunity for content. Shannon, you asked a question about gated content. That's, there could be opportunities of, providing value and understanding the value of your builder from a, gated content.
Laura, how about you? What your perspective on competitive versus discount versus selling value, or all of the above?
Yeah, it's timely. We're having a lot of these conversations because we are, our business model has shifted where we have a lot more inventory that we call them designer homes than we have in the future. And so we're learning, as we go with this along with everyone. But I think when you're looking at your pricing and you're thinking about competitive pricing, what comes to mind is that competitive maybe doesn't always mean the lowest. But you got to be in the in the realm, and like even as much as to what price point are these buyers searching in? Do you need to get your dollars under a certain search realm, because they're all, if they're looking on the Zillows, they're putting in, you know, in a range. So you have to be really mindful about, you know, where you're putting this pricing so that you can capture them, you know, out of the chute. But then comes in the bigger conversation of the selling the value, because if you, well, hopefully you're starting out competitive and you're not doing, I love what you said, Meredith, about the little 5, 10, the little incremental decreases. Those don't seem to be effective, really, you know. And so if you're starting out shooting too high, I mean, you have to have a realistic, you know, conversation among your team on what is the, you know, do more research, do a market analysis, you know, have your salespeople bring you a market analysis, make sure that you're pricing that strong out of the chute, and then using your, you know, your incentives wisely. But you have to sell the value too. And how can you do that better if you maybe are a little higher? We tend to have a little higher end product for our market, so we're always kind of we're having a lot of those conversations with our team about, you know, selling the value. So I think you kind of have to do both.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, number 3, we got to keep going. Keep your foot on the marketing gas. What? Yeah. Don't cut back because it's summer. I get that a lot every year. And I mean, maybe it's okay in some markets, but I would not do that this summer. Here's my thinking. And I think this is out of hopeful thinking, that I hope that the tariffs and other issues are going to be resolved quickly. I think we all can just hope for that it's going to be resolved quickly. There is a lot of pent up demand. And I say that because in analyzing the website traffic is still quite strong, especially if you're doing number 3, keep your foot on the marketing gas. Don't let up. So we are seeing on average anywhere from 10 to 20% higher website traffic than this time last year. In some cases, I looked at a report yesterday that was 40% higher.
Wow.
That particular case, I mean, I thought, are we spending more money? Are there more neighborhoods open? Like, what's the difference? There really weren't a lot of differences. It was a pretty A to A, year over year comparison. And so the pent up demand is there. People are looking. And so my hope is, and what we can't forecast, but what we can hope for, is if that gets resolved quickly, then there will be pent up demand that may just show up this summer, that will start converting this summer, when normally there are a lot of people out on summer travel. They kind of take that time off, so to speak, from contacting you and converting into a lead. They're always still online. They're still looking. They're scanning their phones, sitting by the pool looking, but they don't necessarily reach out, set as many appointments, sign as many contracts. But as soon as this gets resolved, hey, come on, pin up demand. Come on, baby. Let's roll. And at that point, you're going to want your marketing out there pushing you really hard. Kerry, thoughts,
Oh,
comments?
yeah, my mind just went crazy when you said that. So I'm gonna vomit for
That's
a minute,
okay.
which is
Yeah,
exactly what I teach people
go.
not to do. Is
I
this,
know.
that if that's going to happen, let's say when that's going to happen, what were the touches that you had to customers before it happens? Because if you don't have touch points before that happens, it's too late. It's flat going to be too late when the message changes if you reach out then. So to the point, the other thing that I want to say is customers have shopper ADHD, and they look and they go so fast over stuff. So back in the day, we always talked about, which pile do you want to get in? The selection pile or the elimination pile? And really what I'm saying,
Right.
remember that, Mayor? That what I'm
Oh,
saying
yeah.
is that all those things you guys are talking about, that being competitive and stuff, that just puts you in the elimination pile. So now
Mhm.
if you say we have shopper ADHD, they've already done that. What can you do to get in the selection pile right now? And I say, touch those people now
Yeah.
for when it
Yeah.
changes.
So
Yeah.
not only don't take your foot off the gas, but if possible, increase your digital spend. If you've got any extra dollars laying around,
Yep.
pile them on. And where I would pile them on is Google SEO, Google Ads, Meta Ads, and Zillow. And then we've actually got a cool little offer to share with you that I don't know how many of you are familiar, but homes.com is building out and enhancing their new construction section of their website. Mark is on with us. Hey, Mark, say hi to everybody in chat. And Angel put his email address in there. You can contact him because they're listing complimentary for now, I'm sure, but for now it's complimentary. And so take advantage, as many places as you can get your information and get it to out
Broadcast.
there, go for it, right? So wherever you can do that, I would do that. But those are the areas I would focus on. Okay, we got to keep moving. So I do think you need a marketing, what I call hook campaign. You need a hook because when I see website traffic exceeding this time last year, that tells me there's pent up demand. But then when I also see that online conversions, and by the way, if you're still measuring online conversions just by how many forms you got, you are really going to struggle. Online form submission is at an all-time low. Why? Because 70% of your traffic looks at your site on their mobile phone, and most of us try to avoid filling out forms on our mobile phone as much as we can. We would much rather hold down the phone number and just call you, or we would like to text you. So, but when I see traffic at an all-time high, but lead conversion much lower than this time last year, what that tells me is there's no urgency, right? Nobody feels the urgency because everybody's very uncertain. So that causes us to sit back and take a pause. Well, maybe the only urgency you have at the moment is a marketing hook campaign, some type of incentive with purchase that will expire in 30 at a max 45 days. It will expire, and you must relentlessly update and make the campaigns expire. And the only way to do that is as soon as you deploy a hook campaign, you got to start planning the very next day, the next hook campaign, so that you can have all the pieces of it together. And back to our point about being under so much pressure and not thinking things out and making a mistake. If you start, as soon as you roll out, choose your 10K, choose how you use. Okay, in 30 days, that's going to expire. What is the next one? Hammer out the details, put the graphics, put the website changes, get the emails, put all of it into production. And then on the day the one expires, you're ready with the next one. It's like planning dinner while you're still eating lunch. That was my grandfather. That was that's one of my grandfather, God bless his soul. This was one of his favorite things to do. Whatever meal we were at, he planned the next one while we sat there. You were like, dude, how are you thinking about this? He was always thinking about his next meal. Okay. So, and I'm sure you're deploying a lot of these thoughts on just incentive with purchase in general, or anything you're seeing specifically that's working.
Well, one thing, and is just consistency, right? And you said it earlier, Meredith. One thing I just wanted to add is, one of your cheapest is a terrible word, isn't it? One of your low cost marketing initiatives is email marketing and what I see is, and I know everybody rolls their eyes and go, nobody opens email. That's okay. Consistency is
Mhm.
really important. And so
Mhm.
now don't take your foot off the pedal. Don't stop with your email marketing initiatives. Continue with your follow-up, your personal emails and all that. I'm not talking that's different, but your marketing emails right now are more important than ever
Mhm.
because you're keeping top of mind. Think about
Yes.
all of those emails that you receive yourself from the retailers that you like and all of the brands that you like. You may not open every single one, but you notice them, right? You just kind of
Yeah.
go, okay, and they're top of mind. So you keep, and what I've noticed is those builders that are consistent with email marketing
Yeah.
are
Mhm.
seeing higher results and more
I
engagement
Same.
agree.
from their prospects. And
I should not have left that off my list. Yeah, same.
so
Yeah.
that's my little, if you know me, email marketing is kind of my thing, but it's really, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our number 5 and our last one. Our last one is audit, audit, audit. Relentlessly
Yes.
audit everything.
Hmm.
So think of yourself as the uh, editor-in-chief of your publication, which is your website and your social, all your digital, your listing sites that you're on. You must relentlessly audit and look at that individual home or community, even floor plan, whatever it is, and say, are the media assets we're currently using, do they really portray this home in its best light? Like, if you can, if you're a marketer, get out and see things in person. If you're in sales, please help your marketers, because if when you see it in person, it is so much better. People used to always say to me when they would meet me in person, "You are so much prettier than your headshot." I was like, okay, that's not that helpful, really. Thank you. I don't know really. I don't know what to say to that. And so a lot of times our communities, the view from that back patio is not showing properly or at all. And that's what's going to get somebody to actually convert into a lead, are these little details. So you've got to audit not only for accuracy, but also for, is this digital presence really selling this house as it would be if you walked in it and went, oh, oh. And I'm not saying that digital will ever fully do that for you, but if it doesn't do it at least a bit, you're
Yeah.
not going to get a lead in this market, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I have one announcement I want to make, and then panelists, if there's any questions in chat we didn't answer, let's do that, and then I'll announce our 5 winners. How's that sound?
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so one of our clients that we just adore, we adore all of you, but Prime One Builders out of Pittsburgh is a fantastic custom home company. And Mary Ann there, one of the owners, emailed me this week to tell me that Jesse, their office manager and all things extraordinaire, had had a real tragedy. And when I read everything that happened, I just thought, I'm going to have Ange put the GoFundMe link in chat. And if any of you feel so moved, I know it would be greatly appreciated. This past week, Jesse's home burned down, and that would be a terrible tragedy enough on its own. But unfortunately, her 20-year-old daughter and her daughter's boyfriend both died in the accident. All of the family pets died in the accident. Jessie is pretty severely burned. She's out of ICU, but she's got a long road ahead of her. So this is a lot. So again, if you have some spare change and you want to contribute to somebody in the industry, Marianne said that they love her so much. She's been with them a long time. She runs their entire business and is so valued. So we have somebody in our industry that could use help. So I just thought we'd take the platform to pass the
Yep.
information along to you and let Builder Town Hall do its thing. I'll post the link in our Facebook group as well. And of course, they would covet and appreciate your prayers and good wishes just as much as anything. But if you're in a position to help, please do. Okay, we have our book winners. Shelley Surface, Cindy Plackmeyer, Shannon Robinson, Tabitha Johnson, and Mitchell Metz. If each one of you will email me, Meredith at creatingwow.com, and tell me, would you prefer a paperback or a Kindle? And give me an address if you want a paperback, we will get your books right out. If you want to know how to use AI to market better, that's what this whole book's about. So when Kerry said earlier, hey, chat GPT up a persona, if you don't know how to do that or you want to do it better, this can help you. Okay. Panelists, final thoughts or anything in chat we didn't get to? I don't want to leave anybody's questions out.
So from
anything we missed?
I think we gave everybody a lot of food for thought today. And I think that from Laura to Ange to Meredith to everything that we said is from 100 persistent, but consistent is really the most important. Pick your thing from today that you decided we need to consider doing. I'm only talking from today. Pick your thing. Don't be a squirrel like I am a lot of the time. And just pick your one and do it consistently, because I promise you results from picking one thing from today that you consistently do. I really do.
Well,
Okay.
I loved the second mile idea for me, Kerry. I loved the second mile. Your terms of employment are the first mile.
Yep.
Okay. Your personal wow factor, your company wow factor, and your results in this market are going to depend on your second mile effort.
100%.
And Ange, being a runner, I bet you that you could appreciate.
Absolutely. And because you never stop training. Your training changes, right? You're always training. And I think that's an important, we talked about golf. I'm taking golf lessons. It's taken 4 years for me to start to see noticeable improvement to the point where I'm kind of happy with myself. I got a birdie last night. And but I'm not stopping my lessons. I'm going to continue Tiger Woods. I'm no pro, nor will I ever be, but I am going to continue because that's what you do. That's what we all need to do. Otherwise you become stale, right? Like you have to keep
like that bad bread.
Laura, how about you? Laura, final thoughts or a takeaway that you picked up today or from your conference?
Well, there's so much, but I love what you said, Kerry, about picking your thing and doing it. And I have my list, and I wrote down, go that extra mile. And I guess I'm thinking, like, what is that going to look like, for me? But the auditing, Meredith, I think from a marketing perspective, audit. I think that kind of encompasses a lot of that, because you don't, or when you audit, you go, ooh, you might find something that you like, that's been sitting out there looking kind of, and it's just, it is that full-time job right now for us marketers of auditing. So that's what I'm going to work on this week.
Yeah.
Well, Kerry, you trained for a long time on how sales. Sorry, I switched my one of the hallmarks of your training, Kerry, is taking a look at your model, your signage. When you're on site, we teach our salespeople to look for what needs to be refreshed.
Right.
And reporting back to marketing or corporate and saying, hey, my throw pillows have just about been shredded. I need some new throw pillows or whatever it is. But from a marketing perspective, we blaze at the speed of light. We're working on dinner while we're still eating lunch. And I don't know that we always do the auditing. And it can be the tiniest detail that you've left off a listing that is what will finally get a lead gen. we'll finally get you a phone call or a text message. So I'll wrap up with that. Okay, well, whew, I'm tired.
Good one.
No, actually, I'm super energized. You guys, maybe you don't realize, and I think it's true for the other panelists as well. We come away from this energized as well, because even though we can't see all of you, I'm pretending like I can see you so that I speak conversationally and naturally, but I really do pretend we are in the room together, and I can feel your good wishes and your vibes through chat. I hope you can feel ours. And that's what Builder Town Hall is really about. I want to encourage you, if you're not participating in the Facebook group, and maybe this is something Kerry and Ange we need to talk about, maybe there's a better or different way. I'd be I'd be super open to a Discord channel or something more contemporary, perhaps, because we don't get a lot of interaction in the Facebook group, and maybe that's just the medium or channel isn't as good as it used to be. But for now, that's where Builder Town Hall is located. And please, Tara the other day asked, hey, is anybody else have anybody that makes these big fluffy bows? And somebody responded and they had a contact. I thought that was awesome. So please don't sell in the group, but please participate. Ask your questions of your tribe, post comments, give me a like every now and then on the stuff I'm posting. That would be awesome and super appreciated. All right. Well, thank you again, Laura, from Laura, Ange, and Kerry, we say thank you. We will be back, I think, maybe in June, but if not June, then we do take July off. We'll be back in August. So we'll see you soon with more relevant, timely content that you can't get anywhere else, where nobody is selling you anything. Okay, have a great day. See you later.
I got nothing to sell.